Have you ever heard something that shouldn't have been there, only to discover there was nobody around? Tonight, we're looking at 11 terrifying videos that left witnesses echoing out of empty buildings to shadowy figures that seem to appear out of nowhere. As the stories unfold, you'll notice a disturbing pattern. Whatever these people encountered never seemed to stay hidden for long. Number 1. The screams from the bathroom stall. Most people expect to hear strange things near an abandoned building or deep in the woods. Very few expect it to happen at a public restroom in broad daylight. After returning from a fishing trip near Raleigh, North Carolina, a man named Ollie McDaniel was packing up his gear when he suddenly heard a terrifying sound coming from a nearby public bathroom.
Yo, what the? What the? Bro. There's nobody in here. Yo!
The noise was high-pitched, frantic, and unlike anything he had heard before. Curious, he pulled out his phone and began recording as he cautiously approached the building. As he got closer, the sound became unmistakable. It sounded like a woman screaming for help. The cries echoed from inside the restroom, desperate and urgent, as if someone was trapped and begging to be rescued. Alarmed, Ollie rushed toward the entrance, expecting to find someone in serious danger. But when he stepped inside and checked each stall, he was met with something he never expected. The restroom was completely empty. There was no woman, no signs that anyone had been there, no explanation for the screams he had heard only seconds earlier. Confused and shaken, Ollie searched the building again, convinced he must have missed something. Yet every stall stood empty. Every corner of the restroom was vacant. Whatever had been calling out for help had seemingly vanished. After posting the footage online, viewers offered countless theories. Some believed the sound could have been an echo from somewhere else nearby. Others suggested it might have been a prank, but many were convinced that Ollie had captured something far stranger. The voice of a spirit desperately calling out from a place where no living person could be found. In our next story, a paranormal investigator walks into a building expecting to find nothing at all, only to discover that something may have been following him the entire time. Number 2. The woman in the office. Most paranormal investigators spend entire nights searching for evidence and leave with nothing. The night started in exactly the same way for Cody Aaron. One evening, he entered an office building that had developed a reputation among employees for unexplained activity after dark. At first, nothing seemed unusual. The offices were silent, the hallways empty, and after nearly an hour of filming, Cody was beginning to think the stories had been exaggerated. Then, without realizing it, he captured something terrifying.
And I'm just tired, there's absolutely...
While recording himself, a pale woman's face briefly appeared behind him in the darkness. It was only visible for a split second, but when viewers later reviewed the footage, they noticed the figure standing directly over his shoulder before disappearing. Moments later, a heavy door slammed shut somewhere behind him, the sound echoing through the empty building.
Start again tomorrow maybe, and we'll see what... Okay, so I'm the only one here right now, and the door just closed on its own.
Startled, Cody headed toward the security room to review the surveillance cameras, hoping to find a logical explanation. Instead, one of the monitors showed what appeared to be a pale face slowly forming on screen. The figure shifted unnaturally, seeming to emerge from nowhere before vanishing completely. By this point, Cody knew something was going on. He decided to check out the room with the entity forming. He opened the door, and then, without warning, The stillness was shattered by a loud guttural scream.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna need Eric's help for this.
According to Cody, the voice sounded inhuman, deep and aggressive, and appeared to shout a single word: leave. After hours of trying to remain calm and rational, that was enough. Cody immediately ended the investigation and fled the building. The next two men weren't nearly as lucky, because the strange sounds they heard led them straight to something they never should have found. Number 3. The Haunted Closet. On July 3, 2025, two construction workers were carrying out renovation work inside an old house when something began to feel wrong. It started with a strange melody echoing from one of the rooms. At first, the worker filming assumed the sound was coming from his co-worker, but that explanation quickly fell apart when he realized the other man was working elsewhere in the house.
Gente, aquí estamos. Ahora vamos para este cuarto que llevo un rato escuchando cantar y eso. Uy. Hay algo que está sonando por ahí, brother. Ojalá, ¿qué fue eso? Pompi. No, papá. No, chacho.
What made the situation even more unsettling was that, shortly before hearing the music, he felt what seemed like a hand touch him, despite nobody being nearby. Uneasy, the two men decided to investigate the source of the sound. Following the melody, they eventually arrived at a closet tucked away inside the house. When they opened the door, they were met with a disturbing sight. Hanging from a strap inside was an old doll, apparently responsible for the eerie tune they had been hearing.
Sí, estoy temblando, compi. Yo no sé qué vaya. Cuidado, compi, que si yo algo estaba cogiendo, tú sabes cómo es esto. No. Hija. Ah, pero qué caramba es eso. ¿Cómo tienen esa muñeca así? Como si estuviera mirando para abajo. Ay, bendito Dios, y sonando ya. Hola, me siento un calentón en este cuarto, compi, no me... Aún sigue sonando solo. Oh, y se mueve y todo. Ay, compi, no.
As they searched further, they discovered more abandoned items scattered throughout the closet, including an old television, paintings, and various forgotten objects. Then the camera landed on a second doll sitting inside a baby carrier. Attached to its face was a photograph of a real child. At first, the doll appeared to be moving slightly because of a draft. But while the men were discussing it, the doll suddenly swung sharply toward them, as if reacting to their presence.
Coño, pero no será el viento. No, si está aquí no hay viento, compi. Pero un muñeco feo. Mira para allá.
Terrified, both workers immediately fled the house. Whether it was an elaborate prank or something far stranger, neither man stayed long enough to find out. Most people would have left that house and never returned. But the witness in our next story willingly walked into a location with a reputation for being haunted, and what she captured inside an abandoned prison still has viewers arguing years later. Number 4. The Figure in the Prison Window. Exploring abandoned prisons alone is unsettling enough, but what Cressel Luna captured during one investigation may be one of the strangest moments ever recorded inside a supposedly haunted building. On June 17, 2021, Cressel uploaded footage of herself exploring an old prison that many locals believed was haunted. Armed only with a camera and flashlight, she spent several minutes walking through empty hallways, abandoned cells, and dark rooms that had long been left to decay. For most of the investigation, nothing unusual happened. The prison was silent, except for the occasional creak of the building settling around her. Then, while filming inside one particular room, something caught her attention.
Dios mío, yo vi algo que corrió en este lugar. En este lugar.
Through a nearby window, a dark figure suddenly shot past at incredible speed. The movement was so fast that it lasted only a fraction of a second, yet it was enough to make Cressel stop dead in her tracks. Her immediate reaction suggested she knew she had seen something unusual. Before she could fully process what had happened, the figure appeared again. This time, it raced past the same window in the opposite direction, almost as if it wanted to make sure it had been noticed. What makes the footage especially unsettling is the timing. If it had happened only once, it could have been dismissed as a trick of the light or a momentary visual illusion. But the fact that the figure appeared twice, moving across the same area from two different directions, made the encounter far more difficult to explain. Despite the experience, Kressel continued her investigation, searching the surrounding rooms and corridors for any sign of what she had seen. She never found anything. No person, no animal, no explanation. Whatever raced past that prison window vanished as quickly as it appeared. To this day, viewers remain divided over what was captured on camera. Some believe it was a shadowy entity briefly revealing itself inside the prison before disappearing again. Others argue there must be a more rational explanation hidden somewhere in the footage. Whatever Kressel saw disappeared before she could investigate it. In our next story, however, the activity refuses to stay hidden, escalating from opening doors to objects being thrown across a room. Number 5. Willow Hunter's Worst Night. For months, TikTok creator Willow Hunter had been documenting strange activity inside his home, but nothing he had experienced before, compared to what happened during the early hours of March 3, 2026. It was around 5:30 in the morning when Willow was suddenly jolted awake by a loud crash coming from downstairs. At first, he assumed one of his pets had knocked something over, but when he looked around, his cat was fast asleep beside him. Reluctantly grabbing his phone, he headed downstairs to investigate. The moment he entered the kitchen, he realized something was seriously wrong. Every cabinet door in the room was hanging wide open. Not one or two, but all of them, as if someone had systematically opened every cupboard while he slept. Before he could process what he was seeing, a heavy wooden door leading to the outside staircase slowly creaked open on its own.
Right, and the fucking door's just opened itself. I don't even know if the camera fucking picked that up. Oh, for fuck's sake. Oh, can't be
Willow froze. The house was supposed to be empty. Trying to keep his nerves under control, he nervously challenged whatever might be in the room with him. If something wanted to communicate, he said, it should open the door again. Almost immediately, the door swung open a second time. At the exact same moment, a skateboard leaning against the wall crashed onto the floor behind him. The sudden noise made him jump, but the activity wasn't finished. As Willow continued filming, a stack of books was suddenly launched from a nearby shelf as though someone had thrown them across the room. By now, his confidence had completely vanished. What had started as a simple investigation into a strange noise had become a terrifying confrontation with something he couldn't see. Realizing he was completely out of his depth, Willow abandoned the kitchen, rushed back upstairs, and barricaded himself inside his bedroom. Well, at least Willow knew where the activity was happening. The woman in our next story had a much bigger problem because neither she nor her dog could figure out what was lurking near the cemetery on her property. Number 6. The Cemetery Visitors. When a woman named My Little Quine noticed her dog acting strangely one evening, she initially assumed it was reacting to a noise outside. The animal stood completely frozen, staring toward a single point and occasionally growling at something its owner couldn't see. Concerned, the woman briefly left the house before returning with her phone to document the behavior.
I'm recording this just in the off chance that no one believes me. Maybe I can catch it. In the middle of a freaking cemetery in my front yard.
No matter where they went, the dog remained fixated on the same unseen presence. The situation became even stranger when viewers learned there was a small cemetery located on the property. According to the woman, the graves belonged to beloved family pets buried there by her grandparents many years earlier.
A lot of you guys have also been asking questions about the graveyard. Yes, we do indeed have a graveyard on this property, which I know may be weird for some people, but so this was my grandparents' ranch.
After posting the footage, viewers became fascinated by another detail she casually mentioned. Every night, cows from neighboring properties would gather around the cemetery, despite having no obvious reason to be there. She didn't own cows herself, only horses, yet the animals repeatedly appeared around the graves. One evening, while accepting an Uber Eats delivery, even the driver noticed the unusual gathering of cattle surrounding the cemetery.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sorry about that.
Yeah, this is location is outside. Go ahead.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. It's okay. No problem.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Have a good night.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
See the cow?
I scared. Is the cow?
They're actually not mine. They're showing up.
No.
No. They come hang out around here every night. Yeah. What would you do if this happened in your house?
Curious, the woman walked back outside to film them once again. That's when her home's alarm suddenly activated. As she returned indoors to investigate, something happened that left her genuinely terrified. According to the footage, it appeared as though an invisible force grabbed and pulled her shirt from behind. Startled, she dropped everything she was carrying and ran from the house. She later claimed she refused to re-enter until other family members returned home. After that night, no further updates were posted. Strange behavior from animals has often been linked to paranormal encounters. In our next video, a security guard comes face to face with something that looked less like a ghost and more like a creature that shouldn't exist. Number 7. The Faceless Creature. Most security guards expect their shifts to be boring. That's exactly why what happened to one woman working nights in Alberta, Canada, has left so many people unsettled. During a routine patrol near a remote gate, she noticed something moving in the distance. At first, she assumed it was a trespasser wandering through the grass, but the longer she watched, the stranger it became. The figure didn't walk like a person. Its movements were unnaturally smooth, almost as if it were gliding across the ground rather than taking actual steps. The figure appeared to have no face, no eyes, no visible skin. Instead, its entire body seemed covered in thick, dark fur. Unable to stop thinking about the encounter, she returned to the same location on another night. That's when things escalated. While sitting inside her vehicle, she spotted the same creature again. This time, however, it wasn't wandering aimlessly. It was looking directly at her. As fear set in, she slowly reversed her vehicle, hoping to create distance between herself and the figure. But the creature began moving toward her, maintaining a steady pace and refusing to break eye contact. The more she backed away, the closer it seemed to get. Eventually, she fled the area entirely. To this day, nobody knows what she captured that night. But one thing is certain. Whatever was standing out there in the darkness knew she was watching. Unlike this creature, the next encounter never actually shows itself. Instead, it leaves behind something arguably more disturbing. Evidence that something invisible had been walking through a family's backyard. Number 8. The footprints in the snow. There's something deeply unsettling about seeing evidence that someone, or something, has been near your home when you know nobody should have been there. Late one winter night, a homeowner's security camera captured footage of a quiet backyard blanketed in fresh snow. At first glance, everything appeared completely normal. A series of footprints could already be seen crossing part of the yard, but nothing seemed particularly unusual about them. Then something strange happened. As the camera continued recording, new footprints began appearing one after another in the untouched snow. There was no visible person creating them, no animal, no shadow moving across the yard. Yet fresh tracks continued forming in real time, stretching farther across the snow, as though an invisible figure was walking through the property. What made the footage even more unsettling was the size and spacing of the prints. They appeared much farther apart than an average person's stride, suggesting whatever was making them was considerably larger than a normal human. The video leaves behind an uncomfortable question. If those footprints were being created in real time, then what exactly was walking through that yard that night? The next family dealt with something much worse, because whatever was visiting their property kept coming back night after night. Number 9. The figure in the backyard. When a streamer's mother repeatedly complained that motion sensors and floodlights kept activating outside her home during the early hours of the morning, nobody took it very seriously. They assumed the lights were being triggered by animals or perhaps faulty equipment. Eventually, however, the complaints became so frequent that her son decided to review the security camera footage for himself. What he found was deeply frightening. Recorded at approximately 4:30 in the morning, the footage showed a strange figure moving across the property. The shape appeared unusually low to the ground and moved in a way that didn't resemble a person walking normally. Rather than avoiding the bright floodlights, it seemed to move directly through the illuminated areas as though it didn't care about being seen. Slowly, the figure made its way toward a wooded section of the property. Then came the moment that disturbed viewers the most. Near the edge of the forest, nearby bushes suddenly began shaking violently despite there being no visible wind. The movement looked as though something large was forcing its way through the vegetation. Seconds later, the figure appeared to vanish completely.
And then it walks back. It's at the corner of the house. You see him walking? It's like a little short guy.
un fo chiquitico.
And then you see the trees move. Y los árboles se movió.
Y camina, es una persona, no es una persona chiquitica, muy chiquitica.
No clear explanation was ever found. Looking back, the family couldn't help but wonder whether the repeated motion sensor activations their mother had been reporting for months were actually caused by the same mysterious figure wandering the property night after night without anyone realizing it. Security cameras can reveal things we'd rather not see. Deep in the Siberian wilderness, however, Sergei, our next unlucky person, didn't have the luxury of reviewing footage afterward. He had to face whatever was out there in real time. Number 10. A figure leaning against a tree. Deep in the Siberian wilderness, hunter Sergei found himself completely alone, miles from the nearest town and surrounded by endless darkness. Before entering the area, other hunters had warned him about strange things people claimed to encounter there. According to local stories, an abandoned cabin hidden among the trees was connected to a series of unexplained incidents dating back decades. Most people dismissed the tales as campfire stories, and Sergei did the same until the night he experienced something for himself. While moving through the forest, his flashlight briefly illuminated what appeared to be a human figure leaning against a fallen tree. The moment the light touched it, the figure moved and disappeared into the darkness. Seconds later, strange sounds began echoing through the woods. At first, they sounded like distant cries for help. Then the noises began changing. They started mimicking Sergei himself, his footsteps, his movements. Even the sounds of his own voice seemed to come back from somewhere deeper in the forest. It was as if something hidden among the trees was deliberately copying everything he did. Terrified, Sergei raised his rifle and fired toward the source of the sounds. Immediately, the cries transformed into something far more animalistic and unnatural. Yet despite firing directly toward whatever was there, he never heard anything run away. No crashing through brush, no retreating footsteps. Nothing. Just silence. And the horrifying feeling that whatever had been watching him was still standing out there in the darkness. Most people would never return to a place after an encounter like Sergei's, but our final story follows a man who kept watching the same house night after night, and what he recorded may be one of the strangest videos in this entire compilation. Number 11. The Shadow in the Window. Most ghost stories begin with a single strange event. For a man named Martin Quartino from Uruguay, it began with something that happened every single night. While sitting in his car one evening, Martin noticed movement inside a neighboring house. At first, nothing seemed unusual. During the day, the property appeared completely normal. The windows were dark, the doors remained shut, and there was never any visible sign of activity. But around 3 a.m., night after night, something unsettling would appear in one of the windows. A dark, shadow-like figure could be seen moving rapidly from one side of the room to the other. What disturbed Martin wasn't just the presence of the figure, but the unnatural way it moved.
Discúlpenme, pero eso no es una persona. La otra vez te pasaba mucho más rápido que ahora. Ahora va lento.
Its motion seemed far too fast and erratic to resemble a person simply walking through a room. Curious, Martin began recording the phenomenon whenever it appeared. The more footage he captured, the stranger it seemed. Eventually, friends encouraged him to speak with the owners of the property. What he learned only deepened the mystery. According to Martin, whenever he checked the house himself, it appeared completely abandoned. The lights were off, the doors were locked, and there was never any indication that someone was living there. Yet every night at exactly the same time, the shadow would return and race across the window once again. Determined to find an explanation, Martin even approached the property while the phenomenon was occurring. As he watched from outside, the figure continued darting back and forth behind the glass. Yet despite being only a short distance away, he never found any evidence of a person inside. What makes the story even more creepy is that Martin wasn't alone. Similar footage later surfaced from people living in entirely different countries, showing nearly identical shadow-like figures moving through supposedly empty homes. Whether these were clever illusions, unusual lighting effects, or something far more difficult to explain remains a mystery. If these videos gave you chills, then you definitely don't want to miss the videos currently on your screen, where the encounters somehow become even more disturbing. Click one of them now, and I'll see you in the next nightmare.